Hey, hello, and welcome to the Speakeasy. I'm your barkeeper, Jeff Belanger, and welcome to a fresh start to the week. I mean, it's Monday, and even if you have the blues, maybe you can table it for an hour and hang out with your friends in the Speakeasy and have some fun. And speaking of your friends, please, oh please, like and share this post so they can also hang out with us too. Okay, if you're watching this, chances are you're into some pretty weird stuff, and no judgment here. I mean, look at the company I keep. I'm also into some pretty weird stuff. The things that you can't get in the box stores, stuff from sideshows and freak shows of history, the stuff that has a story to tell. And it turns out the people that find and collect and deal in these things also have a story to tell. So tonight, I'm reaching out to a guy who gave my daughter her very first oddity way back when from the Science Channel show Oddities. And he's the co-owner of the Obscura Antiques and Oddities shop in New York City. Please welcome Mike Zohn.
How you doing there?
Oh, man. Mike, I'm locked in. I can't go anywhere. I can't do the things I love to do, but I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, same boat, same over here. Yeah. Thanks for having me on the Speakeasy, and
Yeah. So, Mike, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking a beer. Let me grab it.
Yeah,
I'm drinking a Troganator.
Oh, yeah, I've had Trogs.
Yeah, they're out of Hershey. They're a local brewery out there. They have a brew pub and all that kind of stuff. Really pretty sweet food, and they have all sorts of, they do seasonals. They do
the Mad Elf, right? What's the Christmas
Mad Elf,
one?
Yeah, that's good. I actually have some of that. I almost grabbed the Mad Elf.
No, you wouldn't make it. That's some strong stuff.
It's very strong, exactly. So I figured this is, this one I like. They also make one called Field Study, which is like their IPA. They do a nice variety of beer. They're actually a real good brewery, and I think they distribute too, which is nice.
So I'm having a Narragansett out of Rhode Island. Hey, neighbor, grab a Gansett. So cheers, Mike.
Cheers. Thank you.
Good to see you. All right, I'm going to start with a Mike Zohn story.
Oh, no.
So you gave my daughter her very first oddity.
What was that?
I'm going to show you in just a second. So I don't remember where it was. It doesn't matter, but it's a little bug in a marble.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. Yep, that's like all those weird spiders and stuff.
So I came home and I said, hey, Sophie, this is from Uncle Mike. And she's like, it's been in her marble case where we actually play marbles, and this is like the grand prize. There it is.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
So
it might have been like WouijaCon or something a million years ago, or one of the other paranormal conventions. I used to do a whole bunch of the conventions. I don't do so many of them anymore. I'm actually doing my own conventions, but we'll get to that.
Yes.
But yeah, it probably was something back then.
So Jennifer wants to know, where are you from, Mike? I mean, New York City is where you had your shop for years and years, but where are you originally from?
I was born in the town of Neptune, New Jersey.
The soccer tournament. I played in that soccer tournament.
Is it? Very neat. I just kind of like it as Neptune,
Yeah.
And so I was born in New Jersey. I lived in Long Island as a kid. Lived in Queens as a kid. Lived in New York City, basically tri-state area. And currently, I'm no longer in New York City. I moved out a couple of years ago. It's outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
I'm currently living in Pennsylvania, about an hour and a half or so outside of New York.
But still doing your thing from online. There it is. Shop Obscura Antiques.
Yep. Yeah, actually, I closed the shop in January. Just, our lease was up, and, business has changed a lot, and I'm trying to do some other things, still oddity related. I'm still selling online, and I'm doing these events called the Oddities Market. So we figured, close the shop. Totally fortuitous. It worked out because having that overhead right now would really suck.
Oh my God, I know. So what's your life been like since this went down? Because so for those who don't quite get it, you go all over, and I mean, like the flea markets and stuff. You are always looking for weird stuff, and that's your thing. Find it, sell it, move it. And that's a very interpersonal thing. You got to be in people's faces and tight spaces and attics and stuff.
Well, so again, auctions, estate sales, flea markets, you name it. I travel a lot. I'm putting like 40,000 miles a year on my car. It's waking up very early. It's driving out to middle of nowhere and going to these sales. And again, as you mentioned, it's very interpersonal. It's a lot of dealing with stuff. There's a lot of looking at stuff and touching stuff and digging and all this kind of thing. It's been heavily impacted. I mean, luckily, I have a lot of stuff. I've been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
So I have like boxes of stuff in storage, plus stuff from my store on storage. So I have a good, some nice fat reserve to work off of, but I used to go out, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 times a week. I mean, I'd really cover a lot of ground, and this whole thing has impacted that greatly. That being said, I'm still selling. I'm putting more stuff on the website. I post on my Facebook page, on the Obscura page. I still have a lot of stuff to sell and move. But also, I mean, business is down. People are just not buying as much, clearly.
No, I get that. And we're going to see some of your stuff. You sent some pictures. You've got, looks like behind you, there's plenty of things.
I've got a lot of stuff, yeah.
We already saw.
That I've been doing since I closed my shop was this, I mentioned the Oddities Market, which is basically a marketplace that I put on. I'm the promoter, and I have about 50 plus or minus vendors, and I do them in various cities. I did Atlanta back in February. I did Philadelphia last year. I did Nashville. This year, Atlanta happened. That went well. Philadelphia was supposed to be in March. That got postponed till December. I had one in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, that canceled altogether in June. And then I have one in Pittsburgh in September. We'll see how that goes. So, again, this is really getting affected by it because, at my Philadelphia one, I had over 4,000 people show up through the door.
Wow.
Can't really do that at the moment. So it's a lot of adjusting.
Yeah, no, I know we all got to get used to it. And I know times are tough. And Mike, I mean, who wouldn't love a $25 gift card? During this show, we're going to give one away tonight. I don't think you can win, Mike, because you'd have to make a comment and you can't. But
I will not. I'll take a pass on that one.
All right. But those of you watching, there's going to be a trivia question coming up about halfway through. If you're the first to answer it, you get that $25 gift card. We had a bunch of these donated by an anonymous donor. How cool is that?
That's really cool.
Just wanted someone to like share the wealth and help. And I think that's kind of neat. And that's what this has been about, right? Like just hanging out. So I remember, we had beer, like, was it WouijaCon in Baltimore?
Probably, yeah, a million years ago.
A million years ago, and a riot broke out.
Another WouijaCon, but it never happened. Elsewhere and stuff. We were thinking about maybe out in Denver because there's a big connection out there to Ouija stuff. Or I mean, it's a big country. They can do it anywhere, really.
Well, and when we were in Baltimore, a literal riot broke out.
It did. Actually, there were videos online afterwards that said the reason for the uprising is the WouijaCon. They said you invited the devil into the city, and look what happened.
Yeah,
I think it actually went down a little differently, but
you couldn't dispute him though. Like I think, were you with a group of us went out to dinner? There were cops everywhere, like just standing there. We didn't see riot.
At one point I went out, there was this kind of like balcony area right outside the room, and cops and marchers and it was like a block or two from the hotel, and even got to one point, went outside and the cop said, you want to go back inside, you don't want to be hanging out here and stuff, or they said like if you're leaving, leave like right now or stay. I mean, luckily there was a bar and a bad karaoke thing at the hotel, and it wasn't horrible.
No, we made the best of it for sure. But it was cool to like, to see some of the stuff you bring. And what I love though is when people walk by this stuff, even if they're not into it, even if they're not seeking you out or seeking out an item, like it stops them in their tracks, right? Here's this stuff. It's clearly old and it's weird, and it casts a spell on people. I mean,
well, it's kind of that whole like attraction repulsion thing. People. Yeah. They look at it and they're like, "What is this?" And then they kind of almost like the tension of the give and take of it, is what makes it amazing. It's like a car accident. No one wants to be in a car accident, but everyone kind of slows down and take a look at it. It's sort of this, again, the friction of what is this, and do I get close but not too close, and it's what makes good whatever art or objects. Things that you have more questions once you're done than when you started. I mean, that's what you really want.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, John wants to know, have you come across any haunted oddities?
Excellent question. I get asked that a lot. Here's the thing. How do you prove it's haunted? I've had weird things happen at my store. Like sometimes things would like fall off a shelf, but not just like plop, like fall across the room. Weird things like that. One time these women were in my shop and asking, and I said, oh, well, sometimes things will, fly across a room, and we're probably about 10, 12 feet apart, me and these two women, and literally within seconds this fez falls off across the room, And they look at me and said, "You did that." And I'm like, "I haven't moved from the spot. I literally haven't touched that. I'm nowhere near that." And they got really flipped out and left. And I also had someone many years ago, buy this little set of leg braces. They were like Victorian, turn of the century polio braces, and tiny. And they bought them, and like a month later, she comes back and says, "Hey, I have to return these things." Now, in antiques, basically, it's all sales are final. It's just, you get to negotiate. You don't really get to return it unless there's something truly wrong with it. Anyway, she said, I can't have these in my apartment. She said, since bringing them home, her and her boyfriend have been hearing footsteps, and they're flipped out by it. And I said, well, it's kind of weird because these are polio braces. This person couldn't walk very well. It's odd you would hear footsteps. But they're like, look, we just can't have these in our apartment. And I'm really flipped out. So I said, okay, what I'll do is leave them here. Give me your information. I'll sell them, and I'll give you a call when they sell. I'll sell it for you. She leaves. The door doesn't even totally close. And this other woman in the shop who overheard the whole thing said, sold. I will take those. And so they sold right away. And then I saw her a few months later, and I said, you got to tell me, what's up with those braces? She's like, nothing. I don't hear any footsteps, no ghosts, no sounds, no tapping, no rapping, nothing. She was highly disappointed.
And you're like, all sales are final, no refunds.
I'm sorry, I can't resell them again.
Yeah, right.
Go sell separately, I guess.
So you also collect a lot of dead things. Let's get to a couple pictures that you sent me. You like dead stuff.
Some dead things.
I respect that. So Egyptian mummies, all the rage, right? So
they have been for a long time. Egyptian mummy stuff is that's my Egyptian mummy foot. And the thing next to it, that little colorful piece, is what's known as cartonnage. It's when they would wrap the mummies, they would cover them with linen and then kind of like a thin coat of plaster, which they would paint. The thing is, when they break open the mummies, that stuff gets shattered and lost. It's very fragile. That's a pretty good sized piece, and it's neat. That's the painting on it is still quite good.
So what's something like that worth? I mean, if I was like, you know what, my living room, I'm getting it redone, like it needs a mummy foot, what would that run me?
Foot, yeah. It depends on the foot and condition. The thing is, you can't take the stuff out of Egypt anymore. For millennia, they were taking stuff out. In the late 1960s, they changed the laws. So what is out, but you can't take other new stuff out. So you can't acquire a new one from Egypt. They are on the market. However, mummies were sold and bought and traded for millennia. They used them for medicine. They used them for paint. There's something called mumia, which is a pigment made from ground up mummy. They used them for sideshow exhibits and collectors and people on the Grand Tour. A foot like that would probably be somewhere in the $5,000 to $8,000 range, maybe a little higher, depending if you're really, if you have the right buyer.
I feel like this is like Antiques Roadshow, and I'm like, Mike, I've had this old foot in my grandma's attic.
It actually came out of a house in Connecticut. I got a call from this guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I do clean outs, and there's this box, and they're all flipped out. The family told me to get this out of here. They don't want it. And I haven't paid the guy serious money for it. But he's like, what is that? And I'm like, well, it's a foot. And then the other piece, and that other piece that we spoke about was in with it. And he's like, what is that? And then I explained what the other piece was. He was like, oh, he got really weird about it. The apart from the mummy, or from the daddy, I should say.
Right.
The sexual organ that was also from a mummy was with the foot and that piece. And the guy I bought it from was all weird about it. He's like, what is that? I can't tell. I'm like, it's, there you go. It's the mummy's junk right there.
Take a good look, because I'm not putting that up again. That is the mummy's genitalia, the male daddy mummy genitalia.
Yes. The guy was all weird about it. When I told him what it was, he was like, I'm like, dude, it's, come on, man.
It's a body part. Did you see what's the body exhibit, right? I mean, it's like
I did
that.
See it.
Yeah. I mean,
there's actually two of those. Well, there's a lot of them. There's the bodies, which there's one called Body World, which is Corporwelt in German. Gunther von Hagens is the German scientist doctor who put it together. The one called the Bodies is actually from the Chinese university. It's kind of like the Chinese knockoff of Body World, but all real bodies and all pretty sweet.
I think we're fascinated with it, and we're fascinated with death. Wasn't there a time when like mummy dust was part of medicine, right? Like you would actually use
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would ground them up. They've been stealing, mummies and using mummies since ancient times. They've been breaking the tombs for a long time, And for like years and years, I mean, they would use them, you know, like you said, for medicine. They would grind them up. They would use them for mumia pigment. They would use them. There's stories of them being burned as fuel for trains and for ground up as fertilizer for the nitrogen. There's all these stories. Actually, one of the founders of the Church of Latter-day Saints, his mother actually had two mummies, and one of the scrolls found inside one of the mummies was used as when they started the church, is as you know, mid 1800s. They actually this is even before they could transcribe hieroglyphs. They said that this was a sacred text, and they actually used it as a holy object. So mummy stuff's been around for a very long time, and you know, a million different uses.
So you also, I'm going to just because let's round out the mummies here. So you also have this mummy hand with a ring on it.
Yeah, that's a cool piece. That piece I got from a woman in Virginia whose dad in the 1930s brought it back from Egypt. The ring on it, it's the side you can see right there has a scarab on it, and it flips around, and the back has hieroglyphs. It's made of what's called faience. Faience is a type of ceramic that resembles turquoise. And yeah, an Egyptologist look at that ring, and he's like, "This is legit. That's definitely, you know, an ancient Egyptian ring." And he dated the ring to about 3,500 years old. He told me which dynasties. Often I forgot which dynasties, but it came out to about 3,500 years old. He said that's all legit. That's all, you know.
Dude, so, I mean, that must be worth a fortune. Like the ring alone.
The ring, yeah. See, I've had other mummy hands. I've seen mummy hands. The ring is highly unusual. Normally, the jewelry gets stolen, gets taken off, gets sold separately. The fact that still has a ring really bumps up the value of that.
And what are we talking, Mike? I'm looking at my wallet now.
Yeah, if that was
I got this. This plus
$25 towards it.
Yeah,
I would say upwards of like maybe $8,000 to $12,000, maybe a little more for the right person.
Wow,
I mean,
I'm not the right person.
I also have it under a Victorian glass dome, which is not in that photo, but it's a real amazing piece. And it still has all the wishes left. You can still wish on that.
I was just gonna ask, like, is it gonna be like one wish, right? Like, right? So, what's the ring made of? Spelling, please. Wow, I don't know.
Faience. It's like Feance, I think it's spelled.
Right.
It has a really weird spelling, but and they don't know how the ancient faience is different than modern. Apparently, it's one of those things they lost the recipe over the ages. But there's a lot of these faience objects. You go to any museum that's Egyptology stuff. You'll find it's like, again, it's kind of like turquoise looking stuff, and it was molded. They made many objects of it.
So I mean, I'm curious. Okay, so Mike, you're all alone in the shop, and you're holding the hand, and you're looking around, and you're like, "I wish for $1 billion." Right? Did you at least try?
Look, a lot of people look at it and say, "Is that either a?" They thought it was either a primate hand, like a monkey hand, or they asked if it was a hand of glory. Again, impossible to find. I think it's like one hand of glory, which for those who don't know, many of you probably do, it is the hand of an executed criminal that is lit and used as a talisman, as protection.
Wow. God.
Yeah.
Now, so I asked you earlier today, you know, obviously we're in the middle of a plague and a pandemic. And I said, hey, do you have anything from like the 1918 flu pandemic? Anything related to that?
Hard to find that stuff. It wasn't like they were keeping souvenirs, you know. It was like, hey, I got the flu and I got this great T-shirt. I mean, they you know, they burned a lot of stuff. A lot of things they didn't really want to remember, you know. So it wasn't really like a lot of stuff was like kept.
But museums were asking you for pieces, right? For that specifically.
The Mutter Museum, the one in Philadelphia, big medical museum.
Been there, yes. Yeah,
Anna Doty, who's the director, who I know. This is before this whole pandemic happened. They are actually having a show about the 1918 flu. And because it started, well, it didn't start, but it was made much worse by a giant parade in Philadelphia at the time. So they were actually, this is before the whole thing, they were working on this whole exhibit. And she asked, like, hey, if you find any good flu stuff, let me know. There was a slogan, I think it's spit spreads disease, or spit spreads death. And that was the thing they said, because don't spit, you know, you don't want to do that kind of thing. And again, I looked, I couldn't find much. I did find one thing, however. It was an embalming catalog from about 1920, 1919 that specifically mentions how to embalm people who've died of flu and other infectious diseases. So
Wow.
I actually did find that. It had a whole page about the flu and how to protect yourself as an embalmer and how long does it last and how these embalming chemicals will sanitize it.
So is there anything out there like right now that you've seen that you're like, you know what, 100 years from now, people are going to be like dying for that? Do you look at anything modern and like put it away for later?
Related to the pandemic or
Yeah,
just in
right
general?
now. No, right now. Yeah, like the pandemic right now. I'm
There
trying to
is
think like,
something actually, and it's kind of a weird thing. Like I'm a little split on it because it's a little bit, weird. But I've seen them. They're in Atlanta, Georgia. There's somebody or some group of people who are making these plaques. They're like 3D printed, and it says something like Wuhan plague or something, which again is kind of racist thing, and it's not like cool. But they're well made, and they're placing these randomly around Atlanta. And I know people have been taking them down because once that racist crap up, and so but they're really well made, and they have like bats on them and like a plague symbols. I mean, they're pretty amazing. But yeah, and actually the police have been called, and the police are confiscating them as well. But that I thought was pretty cool.
so I mean, that's a thing where like 100 years from now, if there's another plague and someone had that, that would probably be a pretty
That would be an
collectible thing.
artifact. That would be a really interesting artifact. Even
Yeah.
today, I mean, like whoever's doing them is putting a lot of work into them. They're kind of jerks and stuff. It's not really
Yeah.
cool, and it's to try to assign blame like that on them. But they're really, again, whoever did it is talented. They're just idiots. So,
Okay.
but they're pretty cool.
Okay, Mike, I need your professional ruling on this. What is the difference between a collector and a hoarder?
Is that how cool your stuff is? I think that's the thing.
I think my newspaper clippings from 5 years ago are really cool.
Well, and that's the thing. People often will ask about collecting and say, "Oh, I want to collect. Why do I collect?" I'm like, collect what makes you happy. Collect what you like. Like, okay, yeah, I have very expensive mummy appendages. You know what? I have things that are worth $2. I have many things across the board, and there's often things that I collect that people will say, why are you buying that? I'm like, because it's cool, because I like it, and it's not worth a lot. I don't collect for the value. I'm not really doing this as an investment. I mean, a lot of it is because, well, it just has value, and people do like the stuff. But I collect because I like it. I collect what makes you happy. If you want to collect bottle caps, I mean, go nuts. That's the thing. Collect what you enjoy. Collect what makes you happy. It's all about the hunt of it. It's just about like going to the markets and shops and looking for stuff. That's the thing about collecting. The people who just hoard, like just wholesale, just whatever. You might want to sometimes quality is better than quantity for stuff, I find. But if you can afford it and you like it, who cares what it's worth? Better if it's not worth anything. Even with the whole oddity thing, I've been doing this for a long time. Probably upwards of 30 years I've been collecting this stuff. And years ago, a lot of it, no one wanted it. People like, this creepy crap, I throw that away and stuff. Like the Ouija boards used to be, you could pick up a very rare Ouija for very little. Now, a very rare one, you could spend thousands on them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other things that people wouldn't, the medical stuff, you're like, oh, who wants that creepy stuff? And that was a good time to collect because I could amass a collection of stuff. Now, of course, it's more collectible and more expensive, so people are actually holding it, which is another whole thing. So, there's more of it around, but generally you're going to pay a bit more for it. But yeah, collect what you like. That's the important thing.
I think Jennifer here summed it up. If you have a lot of cats, you're a hoarder.
Correct. Actually, yeah. As someone who's allergic to cats, yeah, past 1, I think it's really, past 0, yeah, I think you're hoarding cats. It's
right. Hey, I forgot to tell you, look, you can't see it, but look what I wore.
Oh, nice. Excellent taste in hoodies. I don't make those anymore. I haven't made those in years, actually.
So this is a collectible?
It is a collectible.
Okay, start putting your bids up. I will sell this to you. It's like getting a big warm hug from Mike. Okay, a lot of people have been asking this like 4 or 5 times. What's the weirdest thing in the shop? Sorry, it's a cliche question, I know, but everyone wants to know.
And here's the thing. I don't know what the weirdest thing is. My weird tolerance is really high. My threshold, like to me, I can look at something and some people are like, oh my God, I'm like, I've seen it before or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I was once at this guy had a skeleton for sale. Actually, a bunch of stuff. But I'm looking around his warehouse and there's a coffin. I'm like, oh, what's in the coffin? And he's like, oh, dude, don't open that. It opened up and there's a skeleton, a human skeleton, medical, but old and crusty and and disgusting, and you know, this mouse pooping. It was gross. And so I reach in and pick it up. And goes, dude, don't touch that. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, it's a human skeleton. I'm like, what am I missing here? You know, so
Right.
what I find weird and strange and gross may not be what you do. You know, like to me, like that mummy hand. I had this really great mummy head at the store. Actually, I think I sent you a picture of it. It's kind of like the mascot of my shop. Like that one I like. The mummy hand I'm very fond of. Yep, but you know, again, it's not all the crazy stuff. Sometimes.
Wait, was it this one? Was this the head?
That's the head. Yeah, that one.
Oh.
I had keychains made of that. I had little snow globes made from that head. I used to sell a T-shirt with a picture of that head on it. So, like, to me, you know, those are higher up on the weird scale. But I mean, I had this one thing a while ago. It was a folk art thing of matchsticks in prison, and the guy had all these like different holiday cards that he had made into it. It was this big giant cross made of matchsticks, and it mentioned about being locked up and about prison, and it was this whole wonderful thing. And it ended up being sold to this guy who donated to the Folk Art Museum in New York. But I'm like, it was amazing, you know, to me. And people are like, you collect folk art or matchstick? And again, I don't, but it was such a cool item, you know, like, again, I can find a weird item or an interesting item in almost anything. And again, people tell me sometimes, like, I had no idea you buy that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I buy interesting stuff. That's me, you know. I'm an antique dealer. You know, people say, oh, it's not like oddity thing. I'm like, I'm an antique dealer who sells odd stuff. Whereas a lot of the oddities dealers out there are more like natural history stuff and craft stuff and not really antique stuff. It's a you know, fine definition there.
Is anything off limits for you where you're like, I won't touch it?
Oh, absolutely. Nazi stuff. I don't touch that stuff. No Nazi stuff, no serial killer stuff. Okay. I mean, people deal it and buy it, go nuts, more for you. I don't really care. It's just not my stuff. You know, it's just, yeah, there's a lot cooler stuff and weirder stuff out there. And plus a lot of fakes, and there's a lot of weird people collect the stuff. And like, to me, that's just bad juju. But as far as, you know, other stuff, I'm pretty good with it. You know, there's nothing really, I'm like, I won't touch that, you know, unless it's illegal and that kind of thing. You know, I don't touch that stuff either.
What's illegal? I mean,
you gotta be careful with the animal stuff. Like, I deal in some taxidermy, but a lot of taxidermy you are not allowed to deal in. You know, things like great apes, predatory birds, most songbirds, shorebirds, you know, seabirds, endangered animals, things that threaten animals, you know, stuff like that. You have to be super careful with that stuff. And I've had the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, which is like the Fish and Wildlife for New York State, in my shop numerous times. And clean bill of health, they come by, they like, thank you. The one thing I had a problem with, this is many years ago, was alligator claws. Now, it's kind of nuts. The American alligator for many years was endangered, but it's been off the endangered species list for over 35 years at this point. However, in New York State, they still have this law that says you need a special endangered species permit for alligator, caiman, and crocodile items. They're farmed. It's actually one of the biggest success stories of conservation, in that there's actually a hunting season for wild alligators now in New York, in America, in the U.S., because there's so many of them. I mean, they've really rebounded like crazy. They farm raise them. You can buy them by the truckload out of Florida, Louisiana. Well, I didn't have this $25 license many years ago for New York State, and they came in and they confiscated it. These, like, there's a bowl of alligator feet. I had to go to court, and I got the license for $25, and I went to court, and like everyone else there is there for like public lewdness, or urinating in public, or driving without a license, or picking up a hooker or something. Like, there's all this crazy stuff. And then the judge is like, selling alligator parts of that license, and everyone like looks around and they're like, yeah, that's me, Your Honor.
You monster. The rope comes out.
He's like, yeah, no. And I had to pay like a $25 fine, and I had my license, and everything was fine, and it was all dropped. But other than that, I've never had any issue with that stuff. Again, you have to be very careful, know the laws. It's not, any kind of money you could make on that stuff is not worth the trouble you could get into. So, you know what you're dealing, know the laws, and stay on the good side of it. So you'll be fine. Very
good. There's so many questions for you in here, folks. I will get to some of them. But first, this thing's burning a hole in my pocket. Someone was so generous, Mike. They gave us a bunch of these to give away to you folks. So here's how this works. I'm going to play a trivia question. You're going to post your answer. The first person to post the correct answer, I will message you after we're done for your mailing address, and $25 to Amazon. It's all yours. Get things you need, splurge on something you want, whatever it is. It's all good. And thank you again to our anonymous donor who's been watching right along. And let's do this. All right, this will be fun. Our very first time. This is so exciting. All right. It's trivia time. Are you ready? From the Paranormal Detective, take it away, Greg.
Thanks, Jeff. Hey, everybody. This week's trivia question from the Paranormal Detective board game. We're going to go with an Explorer card this week. This person is an Austrian parapsychologist known for writing 120 books on the paranormal and the occult. Name this researcher, investigator, and author. Good luck.
All right, it's on. Don't give it away. Whatever. First person to post the correct answer, not any answer, Marvin. And you will get it after the show. So post away if you know the answer. There it is. Okay. I'm going to give it a second because everybody's posting the same thing. Make sure we get that. Looks like Donna DeLisi, if I'm pronouncing that right. Looks like Donna is the first one that I see. And congratulations, Donna. Watch your Facebook messages. You might have to check your junk after the show, and I will message you for your mailing address. Thank you, guys. That was fun. All right, cool. So, so many questions. Oh, do you have anything from the Titanic? Sean wants to know.
I've had some. I actually had a menu many years ago from the White Star Lines. Actual Titanic stuff is hard to find. One of the things you can get is coal. When Ballard and those guys from Cape Cod went down on the submarine, they actually pulled up all this coal that had been strewn about, and you could actually get coal that was from the Titanic site. They did bring up a lot of other items, but again, all that stuff's in museums. They generally don't sell that stuff, being that, lives were lost and it's considered hollow ground and that kind of stuff. So you can find postcards, you could find paper stuff from the Titanic. Many years ago, one of the deck chairs actually had washed up, I think in Nova Scotia, and someone was actually auctioning it off. The problem with that is, how do you prove that? It right. Washed up, 100 years ago, it washed up. And so it might have been, it might not have been. It wasn't like they were exclusive to that. So Titanic stuff, you could get postcards, you could get menus, you could get some paper stuff, but, or time, their schedules and stuff like that. But other than that, there's not a lot of Titanic stuff out there.
So Tracy wants to know, and I'm curious about this too. So do people ever contact you and say, Mike, I'm looking for blah, keep your eyes peeled and let me know?
All the time. Yeah. No, I do. I get that all the time. I mean, I have the website, I have my Facebook stuff. I get contacted constantly. I mean, normally when there isn't a global pandemic going on, like I said, I'm out there 4 or 5 times a week. And the other thing is, I know a lot of people. I've been doing this a very long time, and a lot of networking. There's people who say, I'm looking for whatever. I have people I could call, and when I see stuff that they collect, I let them know. When they see stuff that I collect, they let me know. There's a lot of networking that goes on. So I have a lot of resources. I could often find stuff within reason. I mean, there's been a few things that people ask for that do not exist. There's something called mellified man. It's a confectionery candy, basically, that's written about, I think, in a text from like the 1600s. And the idea is that you feed someone nothing but honey their entire life. And then once they die, you put them in a coffin filled with honey for about 100 years. And then you dig them up, and then with this goo, you could make some kind of thing that makes you immortal. Probably doesn't exist, like I've been written about it, like in some, like an Islamic text from the 1600s. Yeah, you ain't going to find it, sorry. Yeah. So.
That's cool though. Like when like legendary stuff becomes, comes to like, hey, does it really exist? Right? I mean,
absolutely. People ask that all the time.
Yeah, like the Holy Grail.
Often is for something like a shrunken head.
Yeah,
I could get you a shrunken head. If you thought mummy parts were expensive, just wait till you start pricing shrunken heads. They start about anywhere 8,000 to 10,000 is low end for a shrunken head, and they go up to like 30,000 to 40,000. So if you want one, I can get you one, but be prepared to, they have some very deep pockets.
Who's collecting this stuff? Just eccentric people with a lot of money, or like who's
basically, yeah, there's some big money out there. There's some crazy money out there for the right items. Finding those customers is the hard part, but for the right thing, you'd be shocked what kind of money people spend on things.
Okay, so you sent me something that looks pretty inexpensive, but Lord, if I know. Speaking of plagues, speaking of biblical proportion, American Leprosy Mission, right? So this is a little plastic piggy bank, right?
Yeah, those are neat. I just got 10 of those. These were made like in the 1940s, 50s, and there's a tag with it, and it's a fundraising thing for this organization that gave money to leper colonies to fight leprosy. And that tag sticking in the back mentions like the number of, like, you know, they're all numbered and everything, and mentions the original pig that some kid bought and slaughtered to sell and make money to help raise money to fight leprosy. So yeah, these are these little leprosy pigs and stuff. They're actually hard to find. And again, I've had them before. I've had like one here, one there. I literally just got a box of 10 that someone just must have got these things and shoved them in a box, you know, 80 years ago, 60 years ago, whatever. So yeah, those, I mean, they're a little more expensive than you think, but yeah, those are quite a bit less than, say, a mummy foot.
Okay, give me a price. I got to know.
They're about $40-$50 on those.
Oh,
things.
Okay. All right. But
so,
okay.
Again, it's not cheap, but it's leprosy. Come on, man.
It is leprosy. It's not corona, but it's something. I feel okay. So there's some questions now that this is turning into Antiques Roadshow. So Robert says, my old house, a 1700s bungalow, had a 250 to 300 pound cast iron key in the basement. Contacted several dealers from Antiques Roadshow. No one had any idea what it was. Have you ever come across a giant, weird, heavy key?
That's odd. Yeah, I mean, I've seen big keys, but usually they're functional. Like I've had prison door. I actually have a lock from a prison cell with a big key, and I've seen other very large keys, but you could handle them. That sounds like it's weird that'd be that heavy. It might have been like what they call a trade sign. You know, back in the day, you'd see like an optician have a big set of glasses, or a shoemaker have a giant shoe. It could be something like that. I mean, without seeing, it's hard to say, but
yeah,
thinking like, why would they have a giant key? It could have been for an exhibit. It could have been for something like a large like World's Fair kind of a thing, or, you know, an industrial exhibit where they would show oversized things or things like a cast. It could have been like a sample from a casting company, or again, for a key company or something. That'd be my guess with just from the information given.
And right, and I know that's hard, and like who knows if it was super new and brought to an old house or if it'd been around. I mean, it's
well,
tough
that too. People often the old story, oh, this came out of a house. There's a 90-year-old woman. It was in her closet. Yeah, she might have bought it a year ago. You know,
right.
The fact that this woman is 90 or the house is that old doesn't guarantee when it was brought in there. You could bring things in that house today. Not that you did, but you know, it's a hard to determine age without actually inspecting the item.
So you need a special permit to sell alligator claws in New York. Do you need any kind of permit to sell this thing?
Actually, you do not. Okay, that's my foot next to it for you can see the size. You know, the comparison. That is called an usic. It's also called a baculum. It is the penis bone from a walrus. Now this piece, it's
hold on one second, Mike. That is our second penis shot of the night. Go on.
It's weird. I know. It's kind of, we start. Yeah. Not that I do this on purpose, but I seem to have a kind of a grown penis collection. No pun intended.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's called an usic. Oosik. It's spelled. The indigenous people, the Inuit people of Alaska and Pacific Northwest, much higher. Basically, certain animals have penis bones or baculum. Humans, of course, do not. And again, that thing is polished. What they're allowed to hunt walruses and sell the stuff if it's worked, which would mean polished or scrimshawed or something like that. They couldn't sell a raw one. You could also sell a fossil one. They use them as clubs. They use them as decorative things. They cut them into smaller pieces as knife handles. That you can actually legally buy and sell.
It's use them as clubs. Like, could you imagine getting your ass kicked with that thing?
It is outrageously dense. It is like a small bat. It's surprisingly heavy for its size. Like I've handed people, it's really quite heavy. That would leave one hell of a dent in whatever you hit with it.
So Marvin, enough with the and Mike, you actually have a giant penis nearby, don't you?
I do actually. Pardon me. Now this one is kind of weird. This one came. Let me see. This one is actually a taxidermied one of a whale. Hold on a second.
Hold on.
Our here. That's
third penis shot of the night.
And then here, it keeps going. Wait, there's more. Yeah, it's like this crazy thing. Yeah, it's nuts. No pun intended. This hung in a bar in the Pacific Northwest for many years until I bought it. There is a date on the bottom. It's from I think it's 1913 or 14. It's dated. So it's an older piece back when they could still hunt whales. 1913 on the bottom. It's dated. So this would have been like they actually refer to this as it's kind of a weird thing, as a dork. If you look online under dork, it says it's a whale's penis. However, there's no contemporary literature or mention of a whale's penis being called a dork from back then. It's more a modern thing. So whether or not it's true, it's hard to say. Hold on. I get hit by that. That being said, I've seen also photos of it. There's even in Moby Dick, the novel, there's a part about using the whale's foreskin as an apron. There's a whole thing about it because it's whale skin, so it's quite thick, and you could use it as an apron. And if you were skinning something, you wouldn't cut through it because it's really thick leather.
All right. Well, so we're working blue tonight, obviously.
Again, like I collect odd stuff. If it happens to be a penis as well, even all the better. But it's not like not that I set out to start a penis collection per se, but I seem to have a couple of them around here.
Then let's finish this out. Tell us about this item.
Okay, that was bought, believe it or not, at a church thrift store in Virginia. That is a Victorian hand-carved wooden mold for what they would call a Hysteria Reliever, or today as we know it as a dildo. That would have been filled with number 4. Here we go.
Go.
And there's more. Just wait. So that would have been filled with like a natural latex, latex rubber from a rubber plant. And back in the day, they believed that hysteria was a problem with women. Originally, they thought that the uterus was not attached and would sometimes move about the body. And a woman would get upset. Your uterus would go travel around your body, and in order to get it back in place and back where it belongs, they would stimulate the woman to produce what they call onanism, and basically an orgasm, and it would bring your uterus back in place. Of course, this is nonsense. However, women in the Victorian age and even later would sometimes go to the doctor to be manually stimulated in order to relieve hysteria. And that would have been probably for a doctor or someone to produce a latex rubber phallus to be used to relieve hysteria. So.
Yeah, the jokes that are coming in the comments, folks, I can't put them all.
Sure.
Yeah. This video is running schlong. Good, Marvin. Good.
And I actually spoke to a guy who wrote a book about Napoleon's penis, which is actually in someone's collection. This dentist in New York had it, although he passed away. I'm not sure who currently owns Napoleon's penis, but it's like a known item. When he was autopsied, they actually saved it, and it's traveled around. There's a whole book. My friend Tony Perot wrote a book about Napoleon's penis, and Tony wanted to. Is it
a long book? I'm sorry.
What's that?
Is it
he also wrote a book about the great tour, about the naughty parts of the grand tour people used to take. And there's this English king's sex chair that's in the book, and this brothel pamphlet from the 1860s that I got for him, a copy of it for him. Anyway, he wanted to cast them, hey, we could actually cast these things. And someone even suggested I could set up like the Brooklyn artisanal, Victorian dildo company or something. I never did it, but hey, it's a little slow right now. Maybe it's time.
Maybe this show will launch it. Maybe this will be like the springboard.
I've had people say, "Hey, dude, the minute you make those things, sign me up. I want one for the collection. For scientific purposes, of course."
Yeah. So Joe makes a comment. The speakeasy is getting raw. Joe, this is educational, man. Mike was on the Science Channel, right? That's science to science. Yes. Oh God. So let's get away from the phallus and tell us about this.
Oh my! All right, so that is called the coco de mer, or sea coconut. They grow only on the Seychelles Islands, and they are the world's largest seed. Also called the double coconut for obvious reasons. Now, normal coconuts, the way they propagate is they would fall off the tree and they float and then float to another island. These sink. They're very dense. They don't float to other islands. And when they were first discovered in the ocean, in the water, they believed it was an aquatic plant. So that's why coco de mer, sea coconut, they thought it was a sea coke. They thought it was from the ocean. Although, again, it's from the trees in the Seychelles. Sometimes people refer to it as the butt nut for obvious reasons. The other side is even more, that's more of the feminine side. The other side looks more like a butt. Also, the flower of this tree is this big, long, red, sort of pointy, phallus, if you will. It's very strange. But again, it's the
I've lost count. I've lost count how many.
Countless. Legion.
God. So I was
just
they just keep coming. Yeah.
But yeah, so and actually they're rare. They're quite rare. You can only get them from that one island. That one is missing it, but there's a little sticker that goes with it. It's an export permit, and they only allow a certain amount of them out per year. They don't allow live ones. They're actually either hollowed out or irradiated or something to make them sterile, so you can't plant them elsewhere. But they're an endangered species, and I think they've recently stopped exporting them. They also used to make what they call an alms bowl for like beggars. And actually, I have one that opens up. That one's more the raw state, but the other one I have is highly polished and opens up, and it would be like a beggar's bowl. The idea is that this would bring you more money, this would bring you more wealth, and they also make beads out of it, like prayer beads and stuff. It's pretty unusual piece.
Yeah, no, and it all comes across your desk. I love it. I mean, so at what point did you ever have like a real job before this, or was this it?
I did actually. I went to school for photography. I have a degree I was a photo researcher. I was a photo editor. I was a photographer. I was a photo assistant. I photography for many, many years. And actually, I even got to antiques through collecting photography and cameras. And I still do buy and sell photos and cameras. But yeah, for many years, I worked at a stock photo company. I worked in the archives, the historical archives. I worked in the contemporary stuff. I worked in the news division of it. So yeah, I mean, for many years, and so I was doing that for quite a long time. And then at one point, the whole industry got taken over by Getty Images, Getty's. They basically bought up the stock photography industry, and so I lost my job at that point. I'm like, well, I'll do the antique thing part-time to see how it goes. In that 1 year, the whole industry changed. It all went digital, everything. I mean, I went to school for photography. I could do, I could do color. I could do black and white. I mean, I know how to do the actual chemistry. I know all that kind of stuff. I know color theory. But then it all went digital. So everything I knew was basically, and was out of style, was obsolete. And I'm like, well, I'll do the antique thing for a while, see how it lasts. And here we are, decades later, and well, I'm still doing the antique thing.
Do you ever miss the show? Do you miss like the TV production schedule and doing that?
I do, actually. The show was a lot of fun. Like there was a lot of traveling around. We basically would film about 5 days a week, from maybe on average about 9, 10 in the morning to maybe 6, 7 at night. And a lot of it was at the store. And other times we'd be traveling around. There's a big antique show called Brimfield that's supposed to be going on, like, actually tomorrow would have been the first day.
Right near me? Yeah.
Yeah, so to be there for 5 days. I was going to go to Salem to the Witchboard Museum afterwards and check that out and everything. Unfortunately, it's canceled. But so like the show would also be that kind of stuff. Us traveling around, going to find things for people, find it. Just what I do basically, the buying and selling. But it was a lot of fun. It was work, but you know what? It was really neat. Believe me, if I've had some crappy jobs, this was a great job. I would like to get the show started again. Maybe, someone out there interested in starting up a show again, let me know. I'm available.
Yeah. We're all looking for work right now, Mike. Just get in line. God darn it. Yeah. But no, it seems like American Pickers, right? Are they still filming? I don't know.
They are, actually. I know they're still filming, but they're still going. And the funny thing about them is, I got a call right when I got my show. I mean, I literally had signed the contract, and a few days later, the week later, I got a call from the American Pickers. They had a question about an item. They said, "Hey, we're looking at some sideshow banners, and we're looking for people who know what they're talking about, and you became highly recommended." And I'm like, well, look, I'm very interested, but let me make some calls. I'd call my agent, I'd call my lawyer, I'd call the network. And they cleared it. They said, yeah, you could do it. But by the time I got back to them, they had actually found someone else to be it. So I was almost on Pickers as well.
Yeah, God, but I love, so obviously, okay, Antiques Roadshow, American Pickers, Oddities, Pawn
Pawn
Stars.
Star.
Yeah, right. Like, so there's so many show. Like, we obviously love this stuff. We love
Oh, it's
junk.
quite popular. I mean,
Yeah,
it's still being shown. Like Oddities right now, Amazon Prime I think has the last 1 or 2 seasons, and then there's the Science Channel app, and you could see all of it. And actually, someone just brought it up recently. True Blood, the TV show that was on HBO. There's a scene where they're watching Oddities. It's Hoyt is he's fighting with Jessica, but he's watching TV, and it's my show. You could hear Oddity, you could see the show. It was also incredibly popular. It was in at least 6 languages that I know. It was, of course, English, Spanish, French, Brazilian Portuguese, Mandarin Chinese, and Russian.
how'd you learn all those languages, Mike?
And I've seen all but the Russian, which is really weird to see,
Yeah,
how they dub over your voice. Like some have subtitles, but those they actually dubbed over, which were kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the shop, New York's international, it's town, but I'd get people from literally all over the world coming in and said, "Oh my God, we saw you. We watched you in Brazil. We watched you in Spain, or Belgium. France and Belgium was very popular too. So it was a worldwide show. I mean, people are like, "Oh my God, you were very famous in Switzerland." I'm like, "Go to Switzerland, I guess."
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing to be recognized. Again, to me, it's like, oh yeah, a show. But yeah, it was quite popular, and it hasn't been on new for quite a few years, but people still are interested in it. People still talk about it.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I'm. It's one of those things where I'm like, why did it end? I mean, it didn't have to. There's more stuff.
The reason it ended wasn't us. The reason it ended was that we were like ready to film another season. We were like 2 weeks, 3 weeks out, pre-production, ready to film, and they ended up firing the president of the Science Channel, and that was it. So they brought a new person in who basically ceased all productions, just stopped the whole channel came to a screeching halt. The old president was out, and all her people and all her shows, which was our show. I mean, she created the show, and they just stopped everything. And for a few years, it was only reruns. They basically shelved the channel for quite a long time, and even still, there's not much new on the Science Channel. It's just reruns constantly, and that's the thing. It was popular, and people have asked. I mean, if you go to Discovery Viewer Relations on their website, you could ask, because people have asked, and they were talking about maybe relaunching it. Of course, it hasn't happened yet, but if you like Oddities, go to Discovery Viewer Relations on their website and ask them for more Oddities.
That's really true. I can't tell you enough. So many people don't take the time to write in about anything. So like, if there's a product you like, right? Like if there's a potato chip brand, like they tried a new flavor and you really liked it, you writing in is worth like hundreds of other opinions. There's actually like a mathematical formula. Same with TV shows. If there was a show, you're like, man, I really like that. I mean, I tell people, like, I speak at libraries. I'm like, contact your local library and ask them to book me. Like, they listen to that. They really do. I mean, it goes a long way. So
We will.
I mean, networks are always trying to figure out how do we keep people's attention, and we're at a time now, and this is a really interesting time in history, Mike. Since the pandemic, online streaming stuff has gone through the roof. I mean, Joe Exotic was so damn popular that they put out the Tiger King and I with a bunch of phones. Right, like they added an episode with like literally produced on phones with Joe McHale.
Joe McHale, right?
Like I mean, he joked about like, hey, they sent me a phone and said, knock yourself out. That's not too much of an exaggeration of what literally happened. Josh Gates. Yeah, Josh Gates is streaming on.
Look at this. I mean, everyone has a TV studio in their palm of their hands. It's amazing with this stuff.
I know. I mean, what's fun? I mean, I've got someone already said they're going to email me a picture. I'll forward it to you. The guy with the key, Robert, said he'll email it to me. I'll forward it to you. I mean, take a look, see if it's anything you might recognize. But I mean, wouldn't that be funny? Like, so there's nothing stopping you from saying, well, we could do that. We could do it ourselves. Like, we could do it online.
I've actually looked into that. I was talking to some friends about maybe doing even like a YouTube channel and stuff. Like I'll still do my Facebook Live and stuff, but someone, be like, hey, you should maybe look into doing like a YouTube channel. And, once I do that, the nice thing about that is once you have your own YouTube, that's your thing. Like if a network approaches you, they have to buy that from you. So
Yeah.
you own a much bigger piece of it. It's not rather than just when they hire you for a show, you get a smaller piece of it. So no, I've definitely been looking into that, and I don't know what's holding me back at this point. I really should start.
What, do you not have the time right now, Mike? Are you busy? Things
I'm very busy these
good?
days. Yeah, my sleeping schedule and TV schedule is hectic.
Yeah.
So
Netflix is on demand, Mike. You can watch it anytime.
And that's the thing. I mean, I really should be doing that again, and I probably will be doing that shortly. Like why not? People still are interested. People still like this weird stuff. So
they do.
The weird stuff.
And more than that, like, so, I mean, John Zappis did a show called Haunted Collector. And the whole idea was like combining almost like what you do with a ghost hunting show. It was let's go to a haunt, but then find an item that has a story. And to me, that was the best part of Oddities. The best part was like, not okay, the weird thing's interesting, but the weird thing with the story is gold, right? Like,
absolutely.
That's the
and
part.
often you know the story behind it. That's an idea I had without going too far into it about certain items and really, about that item. Like on Oddities, we would basically have all these segments, and we were looking for stuff, we were selling stuff. It was kind of thing like if I just had the item and just that, like really talk about the item and the history of the item and what's that kind of thing. And I mean, people are like, how do you know all this stuff? I mean, I've been doing this forever. I have a really good memory, I have good recall, so I can bring up stuff. I can talk forever, basically. So I have a lot of knowledge out there, and again, I could look at things and evaluate things and talk about things and the history and where it came from and why it's here and how it got here, and some things are fascinating like that.
And that's one of my favorite parts of Antiques Roadshow too. Like when someone brings in the item and says, "Hey, I got it at a flea market," or my grandfather said he bought it from a guy who was like a traveling salesman. Like I love the story, and then the thing is still here. Right? Like that's
absolutely.
So cool.
Well, again, that's getting back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Like, what is this, and why is this, and how did this get here, and who's had this, and why did someone save this, and who made this, and it's fascinating. And then you get more and more. The more you ask, the more you want to know about it. It just builds upon itself. It's fascinating stuff.
It is, and it's really cool that you're still collecting it. I'm looking behind you, and I'm just like, okay, I see a devil horn up there. I see like.
Oh. Yeah, that actually came from a friend of mine who unfortunately has since passed away. But that was a piece from Mexico. It's made by an artist there. It's like a devil head spider with horns on it. It's kind of a cool piece.
Yeah.
See it.
Yeah, go ahead, grab it.
Well, it's a little stuck right now.
Don't break it.
Yeah, I know something's sitting on it. But
okay, Tracy wants to know what's the skeleton right next to it. Right.
Oh. That right there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a cool piece. It's actually a domestic cat, but it's a skeleton, but it's also half taxidermy. So one whole side of it is a taxidermy cat, and then it's this weird kind of European mounts they used to do, but it has a whole skeleton in it. So basically, it's half taxidermy cat, full cat skeleton.
You have children, right?
One, yes.
Yeah, you have a child. How old now?
12.
So
growing like a weed.
Yeah, mine's 13, and she loved the bug, which, again.
Yeah, great. I'm really happy that, and I hear that all the time from people who say things like, I visited your shop, or I bought this from you, and I still have it. I mean, that's the best thing. I mean, that the fact that people appreciate what I do, I appreciate that greatly. And the fact that something kind of cool, and so you just look at it, like, again, it's that, what is this, and why is this? And it's a fascinating thing. It's like when the circus came to town. It's a break from your ordinary life. It's the extraordinary. It's the unusual. It's the stuff that makes it its interest.
So as a fellow dad, I just got to ask, like, your 12-year-old ever like, Dad, I'm so creeped out? Like
yeah. Often he'll say, you should put this in the basement. Like for whatever it is, he's like, that's creepy. Put that in the basement. Like, that's where I have my storage downstairs. So yeah, if he doesn't like it, he's not a big fan of the weird stuff. He's like, oh, that's really creepy. You should definitely put that downstairs in the basement. So.
Are there friends that are not allowed over to your house?
No. I mean,
okay. I have that at my house. Like, there's some parents that are like, oh, he's the ghost guy. Let's not be friends with his daughter. So
one time, actually, this is years ago, we were looking to hire a cleaning person, come maybe once a month to kind of help clean up. And someone came by and started looking around and had all these questions. And like it went great. Like, oh my god, this woman's amazing. And then we called her back, and she's like, I can't clean your house. I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, I spoke to my daughter, and this is really weird, and I'm uncomfortable in your house. And meanwhile, there's like, okay, I'm in my office right now, which is filled with my stuff. You don't clean my office. My office is off limits. I tell I do not clean this room. But the rest of the house is pretty normal-ish. Yeah. There's things here and there. This person got freaked out. Most people are pretty interested. And I've had people like, oh, I want to see it. No one comes over, unless I know you.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, luckily people kind of enjoy it. And I think I'm kind of like people, they find it more fascinating. It's not like,
oh, sure.
Horrible.
No, and that's good. And again, and you're still doing it online, and people can go check out some of your stuff. There's the website. It's been an hour.
Antiques or the Mike Zohn on Facebook. I post on there as well.
Right. So yeah, check them out on Facebook, and follow, lead, all that other stuff. You can check me out on Facebook and Instagram if you're so inclined. There's that. And of course, we're up at the end of the hour. Mike, anything else you want to add? I mean, we're almost out of beer, so I mean, it's got to be time to go.
Indeed. Well, thanks for having me, Jeff. Always good to see you. Always good to talk with you. And keep on keeping on, or they say there.
Yeah, man, we'll get back to some sort of normal. And it's funny because like the Brimfield Fair is not far from me. That's like 30 minutes. And
yeah, I'm totally bummed out that's not happening. Again, I was supposed to be leaving like on like Wednesday or Thursday. I was going to be on for the week. I mean, I was looking forward to this for this last year. Yeah. Hopefully, maybe the summer one or the fall one will happen. Hopefully, we'll get back to some kind of semblance of normal soon.
And we will. And that's the thing, right? So, I mean, are you like emotionally okay with all this? Like, have you been okay?
Yeah, it's tough though. Like I always I wake up and I'm thinking like, oh, I can't go to the flea market. I'll wake up in the morning like, oh, right. Everything's horrible at the moment. It's like I kind of forget about it. And like, I'll have dreams about going to flea markets and stuff. And, I try to keep somewhat of a normal schedule. I try to go through stuff. And, I mean, otherwise I'd sit around, watching TV or on internet or do nothing. So I try to keep a somewhat normal, some bit of semblance of normalcy there. It's that you have to, it's all horrible, but keep myself distracted, keep up doing what I'm doing, get stuff done, make the most of this time because it sucks. And it's tough.
Yeah, it is for sure. Well, good, man. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You guys are welcome here anytime to Speakeasy. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Wednesday, I've got Bloody Mary, the voodoo lady from New Orleans.
I've met her. She's great.
You've met her. So I wrote a blurb for one of her books, or maybe I wrote the foreword. I don't really remember. But she's going to be here Wednesday, and I'll probably drink Bloody Marys with Bloody Mary because it seems like the right thing to do. So there'll be that. Anyway, hey, Venmo tips are accepted. Your bartender, if you are so inclined, because this is how we roll now, Mike. You got paid by the network. I get paid by these fine folks. And I will be messaging our winner this week. So thank you again. And thank you to our donor. We're going to be doing that again. So if you didn't win tonight, keep trying. And until next time, you know what they say. Please take it easy.
And stay safe.